You're watching NFTalk Photography with Brick Astley. If you like this video and you want to see more, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and comment below. Make sure to tweet this video out and follow Exchange Art and Brick Astley on the Twitters and Instagram. GM, welcome to NFT Talk Photography. I'm your host, Brick Astley. The purpose of this talk show is to highlight one-on-one photography on Exchange.art and to talk photography NFTs on Solana. Today's guest is the Florida boy himself, Flying Ryan. Welcome, Ryan. We really appreciate your time here to talk about drone photography.
What's up, guys? How's it all going? Hope everyone's doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on, Brick. Appreciate you. So yeah, let's talk some drone stuff. I'm excited here. Let's start bringing more drone stuff. There's not many drone pilots on the Solana blockchain per se. There's a few of us, maybe just a handful.
You and SJ are the two that I know off the top of my head. I think Ryan Bates also maybe another one, but you're an innovator in this space. You're starting this, you're early being a drone photographer here in the space. Can you talk to me like a little bit about how you got into drone photography?
I got into the drone photography, I would say basically on the start of my business. I'm more of an FPV drone pilot. I've been flying the FPV drones for, I think, going on 7 years, maybe 8 now. Basically how I got into the drone photography was starting my business, my above ground production business. That's how I do make my full-time source of income, is filming and providing commercial content for brands, businesses. I've worked with brands like Ferrari, Nissan, Five Drink, which is a alcohol beverage for adults. It's like in a little seltzer can kind of thing, one of those sparkling things. I've worked with, some museums, dance studios, big places like that. My real niche is the FPV indoor center loop drone tours is kind of my whole thing, in providing content that is shown in a very fluid, dynamic way in a one take, specializing in the one take aspect, coming in from outside to an inside of a location, telling a story within that location. There's been a few viral videos that have, gone around. So that's kind of how I got into the drones per se. I never really thought I had an eye for photography like that. And just over time, I've been, just kind of messing around, throwing the DJI Mavic 2 Pro up in the air. My real thing is the hyperlapses. I'm more of a video guy, so I enjoy the hyperlapses. And that's kind of like going back into photography, because within the hyperlapses, you've got 200 to 1,000 still images that are essentially individually telling a story to get anywhere from a 5-second to a 15-second clip out of that. And with that being said, I've found that the hyperlapses I really just enjoy. So that's gonna kind of be my next steerage of my next collection in the NFT space. The photography, I've kind of just got a backlog of some really cool photos, or at least that I feel is personally cool. And some of these I'd really like to get printed someday, possibly, or blown up, and framed or whatever you want to call it. And I'm just kind of glad to share it with you guys.
Let's take a look at some of these photos. You just published your new the more recent photos from your collection, because you sold out initially. Yeah,
that was initially sold out. I got to give a big shout out to Kid on the Phoenix. He started a whole little thing, and within, I'd say, an hour and a half, I had sold the first 3 photos. If you scroll down there, you could see we got the those are the 2 photos that are live, and that's my hyperlapse there. So
let's take a look at that. I want to take a look at that, because I think you nail it on the head, that it's a story. It's all these images telling the story of bringing them in and bringing the person into the video, into the story. So a picture can tell like 1,000 words, but what do 1,000 pictures tell, right?
Story.
I'm a big fan of this. I love how smooth it is. Like your drone work is very smooth, coming in clear. That buffering, that's the internet. That's not the drone work. That's
Yeah, this
beautiful.
thing is like crystal clear in the wallet, I will say. So I am like really stoked for whoever collects this. Like low key, I know there's a few people eyeing it. I'm pretty sure that they're eyeing it. This will be cool to hang up in the metaverse houses or show off like a desolate planet or something like that. Or even portals or another, what's the Enviro, or what's the other one that they got. Well, I think the suites would be more like sports stuff, but even then, like something like that, just it on the wall when people come
And
in, things just going back and forth.
I think you bring up something interesting that like people will be decorating their metaverses with these not just still images but animated and more video oriented as like you know
I see the
up,
GIFs and the video stuff being very, very popular, as well as like the most popular PFP type collections.
so you got this image here. This
This
is
is the SL2 rocket. The SL2 rocket is down in Miami-Dade County. It's about, I would say, an hour and a half from downtown Miami, out in the middle of the Everglades, actually. And it's actually pretty cool. This thing sits in a silo. It was part of the back in the 60s. NASA obviously was in the race to get to the moon, and that's where this rocket comes into play here. In the early 60s, NASA put a contract, well, two contracts out to two different aerospace companies, Aerojet being one of them, and the other one I'm not quite sure on. I could do a quick little research on it, but yeah, anyways, Aerojet proceeded to go with the solid state style rocket motor. And if you know anything about rocket motors, and you light a solid state rocket motor, there's no putting it out until it's basically extinguished itself out of fuel. Versus a liquid motor, you can somewhat shut it down still. They decided to abandon the mission basically, and yeah, they ended up building three of these different kind of and size and power, and this is number two. The third one's is a little bit bigger. I've never seen it. I don't know. I'm kind of lucky. I was able to get this photo, to be honest with you. The way the silo has a metal grate over it. If you kind of look up in the top left corner, you can see the yellow. There's literally a section that's probably yay big, like 4 inch by 4 inch. Did someone come in with like a hacksaw and cut a piece out so they could stick a camera or something down in there? And yeah, we had me and my buddy were up in there. A bunch of us on the one wheels went back there to go, check it out. And we kind of went in two at a time with the flashlight and, just kind of what we could see. And I was able to stick my cell phone down in there and grab this image off my phone. And I was actually impressed with the OnePlus 7 Pro at the time, taking this photo, believe it or not. So this is like, shot on a cell phone, believe it or not. It kind of means something to me. I think it's a part of history, and it's just, sitting there rotting away, going to waste, and they're just talking about kind of like making it disappear.
that's kind of crazy. They just built it and then all of a sudden they abandon it. It makes you kind of think about other projects that they've wasted money on like that and then like abandoned it. And
If
now
I'm not
this
mistaken, there
incredible,
was 3,500 employees at this facility at one time. Yeah.
wow, that's like a small little like town basically working
Give
there.
you an idea, like, yeah, like there was a lot of employees here making this project happen. That's something I was reading. I don't know if that is true, or what, but yeah, it's some cool history. There's I have a few other photos, but I thought this one was just really cool. A black and white one of the building. Essentially, I snapped it out of the hyperlapse one. Um, Most of the stuff I went down there was, I was kind of recording us riding the one wheel around and stuff like that. And just being degens, you know. And yeah, I mean, I think the black and white, I had a, you know, a mix between, do I go color, kind of saturate the colors and make it look nice, or do I just go black and white? And I see a lot of you know, photographers starting to push out black and white photography. And I you know, was in Lightroom and I flipped this over to black and white, and I was just like, this is it. This is it. Like, it just speaks, put a little vignetting on it, you know, darken up, you know, around the edge. And yeah, I mean, the clouds really speak to me. The building just being black and white speaks to me. It kind of adds that historic look to it. Uh, you know, that abandoned look. And
Very
yeah, I mean,
technical.
they're
If you don't
talking,
mind
you know,
me throwing some technical comments, like it's very done very technically well. Like you've got these roads that are like leading lines that are like bringing you in, so they're guiding your eyes into this area, and then there's this spot of white within all of this like dark. It looks like it's like got a nice vignette around it, so your eyes immediately go to this facility, and it's kind
yeah.
of like, you know, degenerates, it's like crumbling, it's like very gritty, and then
You
there's like
know,
these
I,
presences right there, like it's cool.
I showed my dad this photo and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, I don't like it. You know, again, he's not really big into photography. Like, you talk about classic cars and show him a couple photos of some classic cars. Now we're talking, you know, but this stuff, yeah. You know, he's just like, yeah, it's an abandoned, you know, building. Like, who's going to buy that? Why would they buy that? And I'm like, well, it's more than just an abandoned building. There's a story behind this abandoned building. And essentially, whoever's going to buy this is, you know, partly preserving history on this, you know, facility, you know. And there's just more to it. Like you said, being able to look at it. I mean, I to this day, like I've, you know, had this photo for a while now, and I still look at it for 5-10 minutes at a time and just look at the grass and the details, like you said, you know.
You can get really lost in it. It's not only the story that like comes with it, but it's the story that the viewer sees within it, because it's like, how are they perceiving it, how are they taking in your art? And it's so beautiful. I think this is really great. This is a really stunning image, honestly. Like, from a technical perspective, you know, definitely put it on Brick's picks. I like it.
Right on. Let's see, I'm pulling up some fun facts of the internet to load.
Buy a part of history for one soul a pop, and then
Yeah, so
1.5 for the hyperjet.
here's a fun fact. The Aerojet acquired the land for the plant less than 5 miles from Everglades National Park. They paid $2.50 an acre per year for an annual lease, with the option to buy up to 25,000 acres more at a nickel on the dollar. So they were out there buying up all this land, rerouting the Everglades flow of water, right? There's like some serious history behind this, because they partially did fuck up the Everglades. Like, excuse my language, but that is like the reality of what happened here, you know, which people don't like to talk about, you know. Like, they are changed the flow of the water through the Everglades, you know, and wanted to redirect it completely 180. Whereas, if I'm not mistaken, the water wants to flow north, and they said no, we want it to flow south. And yeah, they made it flow south, you know. So at the end of the day, it just kind of destroyed the thing. It goes back to a lot of the sugarcane crops out there and stuff like that too, that were grown and things like that. So there's, you know, a lot's been learned in the last, here in Florida, in the last, you know, 10, 20, 30 years per se, you know, on why this is our ecosystem here and why it's so important to us. You know, this is our water aquifer, you know, like some of like the purest, you know, water can be running through this Everglades, you know. And yeah, it's, don't want to destroy it, you know. And you've got mega facility Aerojet shipping in, you know, on barges, rockets and stuff through the Everglades, you know. And there's a thing where SL3 blew its cone off, you know, and it was actually during that test day, because SL2 put out such a massive flame Same with SL1, that it could be seen shooting out of the ground. The way the silo was, they had ducts that went down. They strapped the rocket, to test these motors, essentially, is what they were doing. And they had ducts that went underground, and then they would shoot up back out of the ground, and the flame would come out. They said, yeah, you could see it from downtown Miami the night they lit off, SL1 and SL2. And yeah, SL3 ended up blowing off its nose cone and leaking a bunch of you know not too good material into the ecosystem, I would say. So that was kind of another reason why they shut it down too, I think. But there's some cool history there, and I do enjoy the history side. So I kind of think that gets me out doing the photography. Would say I'm big into the landscape stuff. My end goal is to do the van life. I want to travel cross country, get to remote locations in these countries, see these mountaintops, deserts, you name it, red rocks, canyons, all that good stuff. There's so much stuff to offer out here. I want to go chase some waterfalls too,
Yeah, no, totally. I think I think you could totally do it, and visit all these other places. And I'm happy to join along the ride, the Flying Ryan ride. I think you've got a real amazing niche right here with your photography and your style. I think it's great that you learn the history too behind it and are able to tell that, because like I'm learning something new. I didn't know that they rerouted the fucking Everglades. Like, you're gonna reroute Mother Nature and then not expect something to go wrong, or to like, just I'm happy that we're now learning about it. Not that we're learning about it after the fact, but learning about it so we can preserve it going
Right.
forward on the blockchain, so that way future generations can hopefully learn from these mistakes,
For
I
sure.
guess.
Yeah, that's the importance, is educating the young, you know. I think
So
that's very key.
one of the locations you pitched was Red Rocks. Are there any other locations that you'd like to try, like Mount Rainier or something? Or like, what are you looking for in like a new place to go capture?
A lot of people ask me as soon as I get my van, what's the first state? Well, I think I find myself ending up in Utah, like Moab, somewhere around there, something like that. I don't know, wherever the Red Rocks are. I like rock climbing. I haven't done climbing in a long time, but I'd like to go do some climbing or something, explore and things like that. I'm also big into waterfalls. I really like waterfalls, so finding some waterfalls, go and check them out.
Pacific Northwest has a lot of waterfalls. You should check out
The
the
only
Sierra Nevadas and Tahoe too.
the
I
only issue is being a drone pilot and flying in national parks, like that's a no-no, so it gets hard, like trying to bring some creativity. I'm kind of thinking, I get out on the road, if maybe this drone hyperlapse collection takes off. I'm thinking doing cities, making it a thing of just like cities and traveling. Like that's like, you buy the city of Orlando, let's say, like that funds me to get to the city of Jacksonville, right? You buy Jacksonville, that funds me to get to the next city. And along these way, I could be meeting the collectors, the buyers, and things like that, doing little greet and meets.
That sounds like a fun time. That sounds like an awesome, like you're literally doing a roadmap. Like, this is my next roadmap. This is my next city that I want to get
There's
to.
something I'd like to touch on. I'm big into investing. That's what got me into NFTs first. Like I come from trading stocks straight up. Like I didn't. I as a little kid, I like to draw. I like to draw cars, planes, some anime here and there, and things like that. Never really took off with it because I was just like, yeah, how you make money as an artist drawing this stuff. I didn't, as a kid, didn't see. It was always like, yeah, like go to school, become, a doctor or a lawyer, whatever, yada, 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 like a teacher or something. And now that I'm like getting older, you know, my trade's air conditioning. First off, like that's what I went to school for, is like that's what I complete. I live down here in South Florida where it's hot, you know, I make it cold for you, you know, and like see you later. And what they don't tell you about air conditioning is there's no air conditioning in air conditioning, you know.
You're
If you're
outside
calling me,
fixing it.
you're calling me, it's because you're hot, you know what I'm saying? So I quickly learned real quick, like, hey, yeah, you know, I enjoy using my brain, figuring out why this unit's not coming on, but I don't enjoy the physical labor aspect of it. It was always constantly picking up a ladder, throwing it onto a warehouse roof, climbing up with all your gear. You're up there for, you know, 20 minutes to an hour, climb back down, put it all back into the work van, see you later to the next call, to repeat, you know. And I just that kind of got old for me. So
Not to mention maybe
again,
regulations
this
too.
goes back into my hobby of FPV drone flying. Well, about 3 years ago now, indoor cinema tours. Again, I'm very big into like foreseeing into like, you know, trends and what's gonna take off. So that's why essentially I started my business. I was working on catamaran yachts. My old boss in my AC job, you know, it was a small company. At one time, it was a real massive company when I was a young kid. You know, he ran it for 35 years. You know, at one time, he had 19 vans on the road, about 40 employees working for him, you know, and yeah, it was, things were booming, you know, but you know, it was time for him to retire. He just kind of closed up shop one day when me and the Jamaican guy that I worked with, learned a lot from him, you know, and uh, yeah, you know, we kind of got the sad news on a Monday, like, hey boys, this is your last week, you know, I'm gonna pay you really good, and that was that. So I kind of sat around for like a month, like, what am I gonna do? Got to working on yachts, worked on yachts for a year. Uh, Things sadly didn't work out with my manager and me. You know, he kind of gave me some incentives, you know, saying if you want to move up the ranks, this is what you need to do, you know, and I kind of threw my weight around a little too hard in the company, I would say. And yeah, just I guess you could say I shot myself in the foot, and that kind of checked me and reminded me like, yo, I just need to be humble and keep things going. And that's the start of Above Ground Productions. You know, I took what money I had saved and went in and I bought a DJI drone with what credit I had and money, and picked it up, started branding myself, investing into a website, you know, spending time on the Instagram. That's where all my work comes from, is Instagram right now, believe it or not. And yeah, I mean, overall, the photography and the NFTs is this is kind of all new to me, you know, in the last, I would say, like 4 weeks or so. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see where this goes. This falls right in line with my van life thing. And another project that I'm working on is an Airbnb here local in Fort Lauderdale to me. Uh, I'm gonna turn not only it in just a regular Airbnb, but this is gonna be a an art gallery as well, to where my guests will be able to purchase physicals as well as digitals. I was just in a space last night with someone, really cool guy. He was kind of telling me about this augmented reality app that you could download on your phone, and you could buy like plots of like in their metaverse, you know. It's like cheap, like $10, he was saying, you know, so I kind of want to further check it out. But he basically made it sound like it works off of like GPS or whatever off your cell phone. So you buy your house and then you got your house in the metaverse or in their metaverse, you know. And I figured my guests could scan all this interaction stuff with a QR code. I mean, at this point, the pandemic's put everybody onto QR codes. They all know how a QR code stinks to the restaurants. You want the menu, here's the menu, scan this thing, you know. I think I mean, I see the old people, you know, scanning QR codes and all that. It's so funny now, you know, like working their cell phones and sitting on Facebook at dinner and whatnot, you know, down here. So I think, you know, technology's, you know, catching on and grasping, and I find it very cool, you know. So I think being first to the things, you know, I've been early to a lot of stuff, and I'm glad to say I'm first to the drone hyperlapses being posted on the Solana blockchain, you know.
There comes inherent value with moving first in a bullish ecosystem, and I think you're right on point for that, and definitely on track for positioning yourself here on Solana. if they want to get it, if viewers want to get in touch with you, they can follow you on the Twitter and Instagram. Let's pull it up. Hang on. I hate that on here. Yeah, there. Okay, so on the Zoom, sometimes the thing comes down.
Yeah, you
So,
can't see the tabs at the top.
yeah. So that Flying Ryan, they can follow you here on Twitter. You got the link to the exchange art there. They can also find Above Ground Production here on Instagram. Really
Look at that, we're almost to 2,000. Let's get us over to 2,000.
Let's get us.
Last year I
2000.
did a lot of drone work, so there's a lot of roofing drone work on there and stuff like that. You know, kind of boring stuff, but
They can follow you
more
personally.
business to business. You know, this is the entertainment page, I would say, with all the dope, cool, exhilarating FPV drone content.
Let's take a look.
This is actually this statue is going to be released in the next upcoming weeks and part of the collection here. And it's her name's Thrive, and she's made by an artist called his name's Daniel Poppins, and he travels all around the world and he builds these statues for music events, places like this, in the jungle, you name it. It's really some really cool stuff.
That's
So
some crisp drone work too.
Right when they opened it up, and yeah, it was like first on scene, you know, to get this, you know, captured.
Hey, that's awesome. Definitely, you got to follow from me. Definitely a believer and bullish on all things Flying Ryan. You know, before we go, do you have any tips for someone that's new to FPV or drone pilot? What would be some tips?
Well, if you're gonna get into FPV, I would definitely suggest to buy a nice controller, and then get a simulator. Practice on that for 4 weeks to 2 months. I've watched literally guys in 90 days go from I don't know what the heck I'm doing to like, oh shoot, you better watch out for this guy. Like he's coming into the scene hard. And I mean, a lot of it is that you know, with DJI FPV drone out now, it's really easy to walk into Best Buy or go on their website and order this thing and kind of get introed in, versus 8 years ago when I started, I'm like one of the founding fathers in this, you know, making YouTube videos that go back to help new people getting in on like how to program your flight controller, how to build this, what does this do, how to solder, you know, that kind of stuff, you know. And overall, now with DJI out, you can just go buy their drone. It's flying for 25 minutes versus the real FPV drones, you know, you're getting around 3 to 5 minutes out of a battery. You know, there's a big flight time difference. Granted, you know, the DJI drone's not gonna fly exactly like one of our home builds, but it is very close. I haven't personally flown one. I actually just had, it's funny, I had a friend call me last week. He was like, dude, have you flown the new DJI? Well, not new, FPV drone? And I was like, nah, I haven't. He was like, bro, he's like, you might want to put that in your arsenal. And he went down like the whole bucket list of just to why it's just a no-brainer to have. I mean, and the biggest factors is this 25-minute flight time. You know, you lose controller signal, video signal, like the drone just stops, you know, returns to home. There's so many features that, you know, our FPV drones just don't have, or take a lot of finessing, like the return to home, putting a GPS on takes a lot of work, you know, of going in to the beta flight, going out into the field testing, coming back, changing parameters, or bringing your laptop to the field, changing parameters till it's doing what you want it to do. You know, and DJI's really helped with that. So that's my biggest suggestion: controller, unless you're going to get the DJI, then, you know, it obviously comes with that stuff, and they also have their own simulator of, you know, I guess in the goggles or something like that you can play. So if you're going to go to the home built, always suggest everybody to build their drone. Take the time, learn how to build it, and not just buy a pre-built one. The main factor is you're gonna break it. You're eventually gonna smash it up, and you're gonna want to know how to fix it. I mean, unless you got money and you couldn't just afford to pay someone, send it out for repairs, be patient enough to wait for it to come back and things like that. Or if you got, you know, a cool friend, you know, what I suggest is hop on Facebook, get active into, you know, the Facebook groups. That's where all the FPV drone stuff goes down. I'm pretty sure your major city close to you or country that you're in has a you know, an FPV drone community. Just put wherever you're at, FPV drones or drones, you'll be surprised what you find. Um, that's what I suggest anybody getting into FPV. The DJI stuff, you know, is pretty simple. Here's another thing in the US that people are definitely not aware of the minute, and this is something very important I'd like to touch base on, is having your FAA license as well. It's cool to go fly a drone and whatnot. You know, definitely want to watch out for being, you know, around airports, and especially small executive airports, you know, that might have smaller air traffic coming in. They're harder to see and hear, you know, versus a big jetliner, you know, that, you know, is constantly running a flight path. You know, these smaller planes, you know, will come just out of nowhere, and you'll be like, whoa, where'd this guy come from, you know? So constantly being alert of that. But the big thing that I want to touch base on is with your license. You know, the FAA is cracking down on unlicensed drone pilots that are operating drones, making money, and technically doing what I'm doing. It falls under the Part 107 license because I am, you know, being paid a form of a currency. I mean, even as much as saying, hey, Brick, could, you know, you come in and approaching me and say, hey, it's my birthday this weekend, could you come out, I'll give you a gold chain, let's say, right? I can't even do that. It's in exchange. So anything like in exchange, you know, it's like has to be pure hobby, you know.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the catch. So the minute that there's an exchange of something of value involved, even like sports tickets, there was a guy many years ago, they got him freaking on some Super Bowl tickets. He did a bunch of work, got Super Bowl tickets, and yeah, he wasn't licensed, and yeah, they got him, you know, freaking like $20,000 fine, you know. So it's like, think about how many photos and videos you got to sell, you know, and after they shut you down, now you're out of business. So I think it's very important to go, you know, pay the $70 to $150, take the test. It's 70 questions, get educated, you know, where you can and can't fly, you know, and things are getting more strict, but more relaxed at the same time, I would say. A lot more law enforcement agencies are starting to get educated, are starting to get, you know, in-house drone department, drone, you know, strictly educated officers on duty, you know. So back, you know, when I started flying FPV, none of these cops knew the law. So when you start throwing code in, you know, Part 107 under sanction, Florida statute, this and that, they're like, I don't know what to say to that. Like, yeah. Well, normally they'd come at you and be like, oh, well, you're trespassing in this parking lot, because that's about the only thing that they could do. Well, you go stand on the sidewalk, you're in public space now. It's like, oh, I can't do that, you know? So yeah. It was like really knowing laws, you know, and knowing the laws and what you can and can't do will take you very far, you know? That's the biggest thing that I would have for anybody, you know, wanting to get into the drones, make money with the drone, is get your Part 107, you know, spend a few weeks, do a couple classes, get a book or two, learn, you know, about it, go take the test. In the meantime, get a drone, start playing around with it, taking photos as a hobbyist. You know, anybody gives you a hard time, you know, you just tell them you're a hobbyist, just learning, you know, there's, you know, it's always cool to see new people coming into the space, and you never know who you're going to meet. And I've met a lot of cool people that are new into especially the FPV space, that only been flying the last year or so, but they bring so much talent because they have background experience in film and high film sets, you know, things like that. So they're like now innovating these drones and how they can carry these film cameras, that weigh, a good amount of weight, so it's cool stuff to see, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Hey, it's cool to see you building, seeing you be a pioneer in this space, and like to see you grow. I think you bring up a really, really great point of getting your FAA license, pardon me, FAA license. I think that's super important if you're doing any kind of exchange, um, protecting yourself, because that probably comes with some inherent peace of mind. You get some sort of peace of mind once you
Sort
just
of,
you pay the man, or you pay the bill, you get the education, you get peace of mind of I'm not going to get messed with. And then also like knowing when like one of those smaller executive airports, one of those smaller like Cessna airplanes might be coming in, and like learning from that, like being able to pivot and react to that. So um very
that's one
grateful.
of the questions on the test, like if an airplane's coming in from northbound, and you're standing over here, like what direction should you be looking for it?
That's pretty interesting to know that and to like have that as a question.
And it's
um,
like those are like radio type questions. So like they'll throw like, compass leads out, aircraft so and so coming in from da 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 degrees heading, heading this direction. And you just kind of learn that. But overall, and the 3 years that I've been running my business, I've down here in South Florida, I've only had to request airspace for approval like 5 times to go fly. Most of the stuff, it's outside of airport stuff, or where I really need to put approval, and request, but it's good to have.
Certainly good to have. Well, again, Ryan, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on NFTalk Photography. Make sure to give them a follow. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like these videos. Make sure to share them out on.
Starting to lose you there, Brick. I think.
Are we getting rugged?
Yeah, it says your bandwidth's a little low.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you again for being with us today, Ryan. Appreciate your time and talking NFT photography. Make sure to give Ryan a follow. And if you like this video, you want to see more, make sure to hit the like and subscribes. With that being said, always GM.